Hey everybody, we're going to be working on two-point perspective today. So all you need is a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be blank paper, it can be lined paper, a ruler, a pencil, and an eraser if you need it. Okay. So I'm going to make sure my paper is sitting horizontally. That means that my long edge is facing the top and the bottom on my table. And to create two-point perspective, you need a couple of items. The first thing to start with is something called a horizon line. And that is a line where sky meets land or sea. So it's the space in the landscape where the sky comes down and then touches either the land or the sea. So generally in a picture that goes somewhere across the middle, even though sometimes it can move anywhere on the paper. We're going to keep it towards the middle just so it's easier to do our activity. So with your ruler, you can set it down on your paper towards the center, and then you're just going to draw a line that goes all the way across your paper. Just like that. Once you have your horizon line, then you're going to need something called a vanishing point, and that is where everything disappears to. And because this is two-point perspective, you're going to need two of those. If you're doing one-point perspective, like we may have practiced when you were in 5th grade, that only needs one, but you're going to need two. So those are points that sit on the horizon line. If they were to go anywhere else, then they wouldn't exist because our reality is very flat. So you're just going to place a dot on one end of your horizon line and one on the other side. So you have two vanishing points and you're ready to start. So in our practice, I've asked you to create 5 shapes or more using two-point perspective. So during our lesson, we talked about creating boxes or even cylinders or triangular prisms. So I'll show you how to do all of those. So what you're going to need to start with is, we're going to start with boxes. And instead of drawing a basic shape first, like you would for one-point perspective, you're going to draw the edge or the corner of the shape first. So that just looks like a plain vertical line. So I'm going to draw one above my horizon line. That's any space above the line. I'm going to draw one on my horizon line. That's any space overlapping the horizon line. And one below. That's any space below the horizon line. Okay. So you should have 3 vertical lines on your paper. If you want to put them in different places, like one over here, that's fine too, to kind of have them in a row so I have the space to work, right? So our next task, once we have our edges, and this can kind of help us visualize where our shapes are going to be. So now we're going to connect them to our vanishing point. And we're actually going to connect them to both of them. So we're going to focus on one side at a time. So I'm going to focus on my left side first. I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to line it up with my vanishing point. And then I'm going to bring it to the bottom edge of my line. Then I'm going to create another line to connect the two together. So it looks something like that. I'm going to do the same exact thing, but now I'm going to do it to the top. Connect to my vanishing point, connect my ruler to the top, and draw my line. These two lines are called orthogonal lines, so they're invisible, and they help us create our line of sight from an object to the vanishing point, but they also help us create the rest of the shape itself. So we'll just add additional lines to build up the shape, but these are essentially our guidelines to help us get started. So from here, we have one edge of our shape, and now we're going to draw the second one. So with two-point perspective, you always have 2 sides that you're starting with. So now I'm going to connect to this side my right side. I'm going to line up my ruler with my vanishing point, and I'm going to connect it to the bottom of my line. I'm going to do the same thing to the top. So now you can kind of start to see that your shape is beginning to form. It could kind of create an optical illusion where it's bending in or bending out. But as we add more lines, it's going to start coming together. So from this point, we're actually going to need 2 more edges. So we're going to create 2 more vertical lines. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to start on my left side. And you're going to line up your ruler with your first vertical line, so you can have it kind of at the same angle. If you end up tilting it too far, it'll make your shape kind of wonky. So you want it to kind of match up to the line that you already drew. And kind of using these as my guidelines, I'm going to drag my ruler outward until I find a space within here that I think is a good size. And you can have it really narrow or you can have it really wide. That's up to you for how big you want your shape to be. You can always change it once you do it. Then I'm going to add my vertical line that's going to connect from the top of my orthogonal down to the bottom. Just like that. And do the same exact thing on this side. So I'm going to bring my ruler to my center line, and then I'm going to drag it outward until I find a space within here, whether I want it to be more equal or if I want this to be more of a rectangle. And I'll do that and add my vertical line between my 2 orthogonals. So now I have 2 faces of my shape beginning to form. With my shape being above the horizon line, that means I'm now going to look for the bottom of my shape. So I'm going to see 3 sides, and now I need to create the bottom. So what you're going to do is use the 2 vertical lines that you just did, and you're going to connect those to your vanishing point. So you're actually going to create, if you think about it, you're going to create a crisscross or an X. You can kind of see that with the illusion with my fingers. So you'll create the bottom of the box by crossing those lines together. So from the right, it's going to go to the left, connect the bottom to your vanishing point. And then from your left, go to your right. Make sure you line up with your vanishing point, otherwise it'll look weird. And there you go. And I'll darken my lines so you can see them. See, without the ruler, they're very wiggly. So now you can see the shape. So now we have 3 sides. Okay. So this is how any box would look if it is floating above your horizon line. Now we're going to focus on the one that's on our horizon line. And the beginning process that we did with the top one is going to be the exact same thing. So we're connecting this line to both vanishing points. So I'm going to start on this side, connect the bottom to the vanishing point, connect the top. One thing to keep in mind is always make sure that you're connecting to the lines that you make. If you end up drawing the line somewhere else, then the shape won't really work. And do the same thing to the other side. Connect the bottom to the vanishing point and connect the top. Okay. So now we have, even with our horizon line in the center, if you can try to imagine that not being there, you have 2 really, really long sides of a shape. You could technically leave that like that and make it look like the shape is going on forever, but we're going to add some edges to it so it has a stopping point. So I'm going to create my vertical lines again. These are the edges that are showing where my shape is ending. So I'm going to put one here. I think I actually want this one to look more box-like, so I kind of want to eyeball it and make sure they're pretty close in shape. So I'll darken this again. This is what happens when you don't use a ruler. So now I have my box. in the center on my horizon line. Last one we're going to do is the bottom. So same exact process. Always start with the bottom. Connect the bottom to your vanishing point. Connect the top to your vanishing point. Connect the bottom to your other vanishing point. And connect the top to your other vanishing point. My lights always turn off. So now I'm going to create my edges. I'm going to take my ruler and do my vertical lines. I think I'm going to make this one much longer. So I want this one to be about here. And I'm going to do one on the other side. Make this a really big box. Draw it between my orthogonals. And the next step is to connect these. Remember, crisscross. So I'm going to connect the right to the left. And since this line is going to kind of go through my other box, I can actually just kind of stop it short because I know it'll keep going. And then connect this one left to right. Crisscross and stop. So now I have 3 boxes in 2-point perspective. So if you're following along this way, you now have 3 boxes already done for your assignment, which means you're halfway there. You only need 2 more shapes. So from here, you are welcome to continue drawing boxes. Maybe put a couple, try and play with sizes, put a couple in the empty spaces, or try to overlap some if you like. Remember, we started with the vertical line by the center and then created our boxes outward. But I'm actually going to show you how to create a cylinder and how to create a triangular prism in 2-point perspective. So the cylinder is actually going to be more 1-point perspective because we only really need 1 vanishing point for it. But it still works. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do my cylinder up here. I'm going to draw a circle. And the circle can be whatever size you want. Just keep in mind that the size of the circle that you do draw will kind of determine on how big your cylinder is going to be. So if you have a really big circle, you'll have a really wide cylinder. If you have a smaller circle, you have a really skinny cylinder. So that's up to you for what you want to do. So with my ruler, I'm going to create my orthogonal lines. Those are the lines that connect from my object to the vanishing point. I'm going to line up with my vanishing point, and then I'm going to bring my ruler up to the edge of my circle, right until the point that it touches it. And that is where I'm going to draw my line. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing to the top. I have touching my vanishing point first, kind of like a hinge or a lever. And I'm going to bring my ruler down until it touches my circle. Hold my ruler, and then track this down here, just like that. So now I have my orthogonal lines. These are going to create the outer edges of my cylinder. And just like how we drew our vertical line edges for our boxes, instead of doing a vertical line, you're going to need a curved line. So it's going to need to look something similar to the edge of the circle that you drew. So you can, again, determine how long or short you want your cylinder to be. So I want mine to be about here. So then I'm going to just use my eyes to kind of match it a little bit and draw a curved line in my space here between my 2 orthogonals. Darken that so you can see it. And now you have a cylinder. The last shape I'm going to show you is a triangular prism. This one is going to start very similar to how we did our boxes. So you need a vertical line. I'm going to do mine down here. need a vertical line. This will be your first edge. You're going to connect both the top and the bottom to both vanishing points, just like we did with our boxes. The only time this really changes is when we go to add our additional edges. So say you wanted to just start doing a triangular prism and then changed your mind and wanted to do a rectangle, then you can just change it. Easy peasy. See what happens when you draw over top of it. It's fine. That's why you draw in pencil. So I've gone through, I've connected my vertical edge to tops and bottoms to my vanishing points to create my orthogonals. Okay. So now I want to determine kind of which side I want to have as the triangular part of my shape. So I think I'm going to have it on my right side this time. You could really go either way. So if I want it on my right side, that means that the opposite side is going to be a vertical line, just like we do for our rectangles. So I'm going to start with that first because that's a little bit easier. So I want my shape to kind of be about this long or this deep. Make sure it lines up with my vertical line and just connect it like we've been doing. To connect there. Now instead of doing a vertical line to create our triangle, we're actually going to do a diagonal line and create the illusion of a triangle within our space. So from the top point, and you can do it backwards if you want to do the bottom one and make a triangle this way, you can. Or if you want to do a top one, actually I might do a bottom one because I don't usually do this. So it's the same process. You can choose either the top or bottom of your center line, and you're going to create, connect your ruler to that corner, and then kind of determine how skinny or wide you can kind of see the space that it'll give you in here. How big you want it to be. So I actually want mine to be about here. I'm going to draw a diagonal line from my orthogonal down to that corner. And I'll darken this a little bit so you can see it better. Okay, so I have my corner shape, and then this is the back edge. So then I'm going to connect this corner here, because this will be like essentially creating the top of this line, but instead I don't need to worry about a bottom. I'm only going to do the top. So I'm going to connect. Oh, this is the crisscross part. Okay, so that connects there. And then this one will connect to the opposite side, crisscross. Now you have 5 shapes. You have your 3 boxes, you have a cylinder, and you have a triangular prism. Okay. Feel free to rewatch this video as often as you need it. You can pause it, slow me down. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment or send me an email. Have fun.